if you want to introduce yourselves and hello. Thank you all so much for coming and sharing in this experience with us. My name is Heather. I am originally from New York, and I joined Talkback in 2018. Hello everyone, it's so wonderful to be here, so thank you. My name is Sia Hagen. I'm originally from Tallahassee, Florida, and I joined in 2017. Does anyone have any questions for us?
I'll get us started with some questions. I heard a lot of people actually asking, and I knew the answer because I got to meet with both of you at the master classes, but a lot of the audience was actually wondering who choreographed these pieces and how does that occur for your company?
So we have a really unique process in Momix. In dance, normally there will be one choreographer. They'll come into the room, they know exactly what they want, and they tell the dancers exactly what to do. And that is not at all what we do in Momix. Our creation process is very collaborative, and we usually start with just a prop or an idea, a piece of music, and we improvise a lot. So we get into the space and we just play around and we see what kind of really creative, amazing things we can do with these props that you have seen here. And then our director, Moses, he overlooks all of it and he'll pick out certain things that are the most effective, and then everybody will learn those things, and then we eventually put it together in a sequence, put it to music, create something, and then edit it over and over and over again. And then on top of that, we have lots of other elements, as you saw in the show, lights, costumes, set, projection. So all of that comes together to create this unique art that you see. It's not just movement, it's not just one thing, it's everything put together. So it takes a lot of time to create what we create, and a lot of minds come together to make it, but that's what makes it so brilliant.
Yeah, I'm running to you.
Hi, I'm Annalise. I feel like part of the illusion of the show is like a lot of role changes very, very quickly in a very rapid amount of time between what props you're utilizing and the angles of which are coming in and the characters of which you're embodying in a very quick short, because obviously there's only 7 of you guys. So could you guys speak more to how you can kind of tap in or tap out of certain characters in a relatively quick amount of time?
That's a great question, actually. I think it's different for every person, of course, but speaking for myself, I think costume has a lot to do with it. It's how you dress, how you present yourself, even from your day-to-day. It makes you feel a certain way, and much like Alice keeps falling down the rabbit hole, we kind of keep falling down through these characters. So we have a through line, at least for the ladies, that we're all kind of Alice, so that's kind of where we keep returning home to. But in my way of looking at this show, Alice is still kind of throughout those characters, but then all of a sudden she maybe looks in the mirror and then she's a queen or she's a rabbit or all of these different things. So yeah, we are changing off stage a lot of different ways, and then we step back on and it's a new scene and it's a new area of Wonderland. Yeah, and it comes from also just being really, really present. So in everything that you do, you're very invested and you're really present and you're completely that thing in that moment and nothing else. And then as it moves on to something else, the same thing happens again and again. So it's also part of your work as an artist throughout your whole career, throughout all of your training, is to develop that ability to be really present and really invested, and for everything to be so true every single time that you approach it. Oh, I have actually one more thing to add too. I think you also develop a really personal relationship with that moment on stage too. I know that throughout the show, there are moments where I kind of look to the show to to ground me, because there's so much happening around us and a lot of energy from both the audience and within. So you go into a certain section and all of a sudden that is just where you are. Like you're saying, that presence. So I don't know, it feels good to step into those characters because you're no longer yourself.
I just have a question about the technical aspect and the lighting, because so much of what's happening is, interacting with the video and the lighting projection. How long does it take to develop that, and do you do any of your creative process with that as well?
Yeah,
I'd really love to hear about that.
maybe we can have a guest artist.
And also, especially that very last thing where the dress was in color and everything else was in black and white, that I want to know how that happened.
Hi, my name is Colin. I'm the production stage manager and the front house engineer. I didn't exactly. What was the question exactly regarding the lighting? To develop or to set up day to day?
You obviously have these concepts that are very much part of the lighting is part of the concept of the whole piece. So do you rehearse with lighting? When do you bring the lighting in to create the whole concept? Because it's a really important part of the whole overall narrative of the show.
Absolutely. Well, the dancers can speak more to the initial process because I was not around at the show's creation, but lighting plays a very important role in developing a show like this. And really, until the dancers get on stage, you can't see it. So it much like the devised process of the dancers, the lighting is just as devised and created. There's a long process though, with the lighting designer and the artistic director working together, and yeah, it evolves with the piece. We're still constantly changing things years later, so yeah, it evolves just as much as everything else.
When we were creating Alice, thank you, Colin. And actually, can we just have a wonderful round of applause for our technicians? This show is so technical, and it would not happen without them. And to that, during the creation process, there was a lot of, at least for me, times in the studio where we kind of looked at each other like, well, what is he seeing here that we're not seeing? And I was like, wow, perfect timing. But then we got to the theater, and Moses just had these visions that he was able to bring to life with the lighting, with the projection, and it completely changed the whole illusion. Yeah, so just like we were talking about before, it's really collaborative, and all of these minds, are putting their work into it. But Moses, our director, he is ultimately the visionary, and he's the one. It's like a chef, like all these ingredients come together, but he's the one that really puts it all together in one piece. So he understands enough about each facet of everything, and is such an artist deep down in his soul that he really is responsible for the cohesion of all the elements together to create the magic that you see. And so, yeah, we worked a lot in the studio without the lights for a long time, and then we had maybe a few weeks in a theater to put together all the technical elements in the very beginning. But just like they were saying, we're still changing it years later. So, yeah.
We have time for 2 more questions. Okay, you and then you. Yeah.
Where did the word momix come from?
Great question. I believe, so Moses grew up on a farm. That was his childhood, and I think there were lots of cows there. And Mo mixed was some sort of feed for the cows. It's also a play on his name, Moses. And his very first performance that he presented through Momix actually was a site-specific performance on his farm with all of these cows as part of the performance, and he brought the audience out into the field with the cows, and he put together this whole thing. So I have heard him talk about that before, and talk about that word coming from that. Yeah, making a formula for cows.
That's impressive that you knew that.
I'm a Modex junkie.
I love it. All right, we got one more question.
Yeah, what's the time frame from the initial playing around with the props and pulling out all these little interesting things and crafting it clear to the point where you have the first curtain that rises? What time frame is that? Are we talking weeks, months, years?
It's definitely months is what we say our creation process. Typically over the summer we spend about 4 months from start to premiere. And it's every day in the studio from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. just dancing, creating, playing, days on end, and then like Heather said, a couple weeks in the theater. But the show never stops evolving. Every single time we return home, I say home, it's our studio, we return home to the studio, something changes and it's forever growing. A new person comes into the cast and they bring their element to the show. So the creation process is about 4 months long, and then it's been about 6 years long as well. We're based in a small town in Connecticut, Washington Depot, Connecticut.
If nobody else has any burning questions, we can,
So when you create a show, how long is that performed? Is it just a year, or do you do it several years?
It depends on a lot of different things. So for Alice specifically, we created the show and then we started touring in Europe and Italy. We have a really big, passionate audience in Italy. And so because it was brand new, it took a little while to pick up. So those tours were kind of sporadic. And then right before the pandemic, we had a tour and then that got cut short. So that's sort of a unique scenario. And we lost a few years to the pandemic. And then once we started returning, it was really gradual again to pick up just because of the nature of the pandemic. Tours would get postponed and canceled. And then we started to get some real momentum. And so once things sort of returned back to normal for live performance and touring picked up, we were really, really busy. And I would say that's been the last like 2-3 years of really consistent touring. So Alice, luckily, is really well received. And so it does really well. And so people just, they want to book the show, and it keeps going and going because it's so successful. And so, we've been around for 6 or 7 years, minus the little chunk of the pandemic. But a show, if it is as successful as Alice, will typically go for, would you say, like 6 years, 5-6 years? But it depends on the show. So, yeah, we have a best of show that's been touring since 40 years or forever, because it keeps changing and growing, and new pieces come in and come out, and that one's kind of our consistent staple show. But the more storyline specific or theme specific shows are about 5 to 6 years.
Very cool. And it was funny that you mentioned the pandemic and the best of show, because the Fort Wayne Dance Collective and the Embassy Theater actually in 2020 was going to bring in Momix for that show. So it's been a wish of ours to have you here. You are our 34th guest artist in Fort Wayne, and we were just so overjoyed that I have this happen tonight. So thank you so much. And where are you guys off to next?
South Bend.
Oh, nice! Yes, Indiana. Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for sharing your talents and energy with us, and we wish you well on your travels.
Thank you.